So do you see the online development of technology having an impact on intellectual property?
Yes, now everything is, that's why I said social media is very, very strong. And now we are moving to AI. Now, see, as a law firm, I adopted, we have all the systems in place, like, daily court list, I have moved. So it's easy to manage things as well. So especially talking of intellectual property, there is a lot of intellectual property violations are taking place. There are a lot of marketplaces, eBay, Amazon, and all these. But now these companies, when they initially started, they didn't focus on brand enforcement. They were revenue driven, so they don't care whatever they sell, they get their commissions and so on. So answer is yes, but also there is lot of software. One of our company's legal base is exclusively online work we do. We can scrape all these fake sites and things like that. There is everything is developing, enforcement side and all that. But so the answer, I think, yes. And and I see for young people, there are great opportunities there. They're quite active on computers and social media. They see, but there is great opportunities to do enforcement. Now, see, if you say now there is a mechanism, brands can various emails you can send if they notice Amazon is doing something. So allowing without their knowledge, then they take action, not like before. So they ban them to sell like that. You can act. Certain instances, they expect the brand owner to take a court order. Now, see, we filed the first case against YouTube in Sri Lanka. Because we wrote several letters on behalf of our client, but they didn't take any action. We filed a case, we served the papers, immediately they closed it. So it's there.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to yet another MBA Diary session. Today's topic is on intellectual property and its implementation in businesses. To introduce our speaker, an individual with years of experience, I would like to welcome Dr. Rohan Pathukorana, the pioneer of the MBA Diary series, to welcome our speaker for this afternoon. Doctor, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. We have a very eminent person. It was so hard to get him on board because he travels all over the world. A self-made lawyer. He was called to the bar of the Supreme Court of Sri Lanka in 1991 and draws over 30 years of legal experience and is proficient in many areas of the law. He's the respected professional with membership in the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, International Bar Association, Asian Patents Attorneys Association, International Trademark Association, and International Association of Outsourcing Professionals. He has served on INTA ACC South Asia Subcommittee for 3 years until 2020 and is currently member of the INTA Unfair Competition Committee. He was selected to the 2024-25 Enforcement Committee of INTA, an active member of the AmCham. His forte is in brand protection and intellectual property, which he goes out and helps and supports the whole membership with so much of workshops, which just shows his commitment for this profession. And the association is one of Sri Lanka's leading full-service law firms, which is Sudath Perera Associates, and has a reputation in the areas of brand protection and IP law. Now the organization has diversified into innovative areas of legal outsourcing through the firm's legal base, compliance auditing through IPS Lanka Private Limited, and investigation services through CIL. He has a distinction of being the first Sri Lankan to be recognized globally and called to the legal top 500 Hall of Fame for intellectual property and dispute resolution. For 3 years consecutively, he has been listed, and today he's renowned for being known as the counterfeit buster in Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, a person whom I have a lot of respect for, a person who I remember when I was serving the tea board, who voluntarily came, explained the whole concept to the key tea exporters of Sri Lanka. And right now, as we speak, his clientele include the top Fortune 500 companies. He has Ceylon Tobacco in Sri Lanka, Fonterra, Munchie, ABS, Asia Broadcasting Corporation, global company Reckitt Benckiser, the John Kills and the Haley's Group, Dilma. I mean, all the top companies of Sri Lanka consult him before they move on to intellectual property. Ladies and gentlemen, the attorney at law, managing partner of Sudath Perera Associates, Mr. Sudath Perera. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rantha, for your kind introduction. Thank you, Ruth, and many thanks for Pete and entire team inviting me for this session. It is my pet area. Although I'm the managing partner, I love this area and I like to share my experience. So I would like to make it, I told doctor as well, to make it interactive, through questions. Because that's the best way to learn this. I want to, because my objective is of this is to educate the enforcement aspect of it, because within a very short time limit, I will not go into in-depth explanations of briefly only. I will touch what intellectual property is. Now, see, I will, since we have limited time, briefly, I want to focus more on enforcement, because a lot of companies needs that brand enforcement, how it can help the increase the brand value, protect brand, intellectual property rights without diluting, without letting it go into a long battle. So if you nip it at the first instant itself is the safest way. I can guide you this through questions. I believe doctor has many questions to ask, and I'm very happy to answer those things. Now, first, we must understand what are intellectual property rights. In briefly, exclusive rights of creators and owners of tangible and intangible assets. IPR, which includes copyrights, trademark, that is logos, trade names, patent, the industrial designs, trade secrets, and many other things as well. World has developed into many other areas, but our act is the next thing is the brand identity and overall branding of a company is protected as the company's IPR. A unique brand identity generates consumer trust and loyalty, making it one of the most valuable assets of a company. So that's briefly what intellectual property rights are. So if you take how it locally, how it can be protected, what are our rights? They are all, our Intellectual Property Act was amended in 2003 and brought in line with the TRIPS agreement. Briefly, TRIPS agreement, so is based in Geneva. They got together. Most of the countries are part of this treaty. So based on this TRIPS agreement, the entire world changed their intellectual property acts. So fortunately, our act is in line with that. And we have developed into various other areas as well based on that. This act covers, we have adequate protection to enforce and also to protect IP rights in Sri Lanka. like any other country. So it is up to date with global perspective. So the next thing one should know is in the Act, there are various chapters which deals with. So I advise, all these MBA students, I'm sure you must have learned. Doctor, have you covered IP law in this program?
It will come so that as we move along. So
Okay.
right now they are doing psychology right now.
Very well. Right. Thanks. But in time to come, you are doing it. So I advise you all to buy the Intellectual Property Act, that is, and go through the chapters, and maybe we can do a session later, chapter wise, based on that. Copyrights are in part 2, industrial designs. Now, all these things can be protected. That's why I'm just running this to industrial designs and inventions. And say, if you invent something, that also can be protected, that those the chapters deal with that. And then we have trademarks. So that's a very wide area. Trade names, layout designs of integrated circuits. All these things are covered. Now, say you will have a question, how can we protect software, for instance? So that comes under copyrights. Say if you have a trade name, say my trademark is Sudath Perera Associates, I have registered that. So I have few legal base, I have registered. So if you take APIT, I believe it's registered. So whether you are registered or not, you can still, there are based on well-known marks, and this is a huge area. There are a lot of things are there, but registering in a country, you get priority. That's over. Say when it comes to litigation, infringement, only you will experience these things. So as I told you, it's a very wide area. So the trade names are can be protected, and also very often we face this trade secret, like for instance, Coca-Cola formula, and also recipes. Various, those trade secrets are very important to business organizations. So that is under section 160, unfair competition. Under that, the Intellectual Property Act deals with that, and that gives all the rights and enforcement opportunities and everything. So then we have geographical indication area. So likewise, our act is pretty much in line with the global perspective. So that's about it. Now, since you all are MBA students, it is important to know why intellectual property is important to a business. So intellectual property in business may primarily consist of all these what I just said, that is trademarks, patents, copyrights, trade secrets, and various other intellectual property and ideas turns into all these things. So a strong IP portfolio is key to obtaining venture capital and increase the value of the company in mergers and acquisition. Now, we as a firm, we do a lot of corporate work and involved with cross-border mergers, acquisitions, things like that. So we can, with that experience, I have clearly seen how important IP portfolio. Now, see, if you take that's the acquisition. So that's very important. Develop a good IP portfolio. Now, see, if you take, I have the opportunity of working with many global brands, as Dr. mentioned. So if you look at their structures, they have separate companies owning the trademark portfolio, patents, everything. IP rights are secured under a independent subsidiary, and they assign these things to the other other companies within the organization. So it's so important. And they also have brand protection departments to protect that, because now in Sri Lanka, my experience, except now of course, with access to social media, and we have gained a lot of knowledge, and we are fortunately we are focusing on IP area as well, which is very, very good. But there are a lot we can do to protect IP within businesses. So the business, you start a business, you start a startup, then after a point you forget about the IP, you may focus on developing the business. So then if you don't, then when it comes to an exit stage or merger, you will realize the value of IP in your asset portfolio. So it's important, you know, we can go on explaining these things. That's one aspect. So that is one of the reasons that you should give highest priority to in an organization. IP rights, very, very important. And now see, even for a country, it applies. Applies to any organization as well. Investment protection is there. If you take a company, they take a lot of precautionary steps to prevent, protect the investment. So the investment protection is very important. Same as IP. IP also needs a lot of this thing, because now see, BOI, if a new investment is coming, they will ask this question. You know, we also advise companies coming into Sri Lanka. So they ask, what are your IP, how it's enforced, how active the regulators, all these questions they ask. So that is why I'm saying it's really important to show. Say if you are going to merge with a global company, they will ask, what are your IP portfolio, and have you had any problems in that? And so they will analyze in a prior to doing an acquisition, they'll do due diligence. So during that they will go into all these areas as well. So it's really important, as I'm sure all these MBA members of this session, they are leading various organizations within the country, locally as well as abroad. So it's really important to give some priority to intellectual property rights, and in addition, the brand protection, the enforcement. A lot of these organizations I have noticed, they have when it comes to brand protection, which means enforcement, it's a very wide area. I'm sure with our Q&A, we will explain a lot more on that. So when it comes to brand protection, they don't have a way of handling it. But if you compare with a global organization, they have exclusive department to enforce brand protection, which is very important. So then when it comes to brand protection, another question I face, we don't have budgets. So they don't realize they have huge marketing budgets, promoting the brand, building. They are not focusing if just within, for instance, for within few months, your brand value can get diluted due to infringements. That is counterfeits and also unfair competition, lookalikes, various issues you face when you are running a business. So if you have a strong brand protection department with a reasonable budget, so the budget can be allocated from your marketing budget. The marketing budget, all organizations spend huge amounts, billions. Collectively in Sri Lanka, I think last year, somewhere close to 160 billion was spent. That is without these hoardings and things like that. All put together, it's about 300 billion. But I don't see any organization allocating some funds for provisions for brand enforcement. So that's also important. So I think we need to focus on brand protection enforcement as well. Simply registering will not give you that protection, because practically you have a lot of challenges when it comes to enforcement. So as business leaders, you need to focus on that, because that is it's going to be a huge asset. The one example, so everyone can say, if you take garments, everyone can make shirts. We have that capability. So you take big brands like Victoria's Secret, Ralph Lauren, Lacoste. So they employ thousands of people in Sri Lanka to source and stitch and take it. They don't come if they don't have, because those they sell these things in the global market because of their logo. So if they go to market without a logo, that value won't be there. So that's the reason we need to give them protection. So, and also it should be part of your compliance program. So now when Microsoft, I did a lot of enforcement for copyright violation. Some of the listed companies also, they didn't have proper mechanism. So we shut down 2 plants at the same time, and they had to pay large sums of money to Microsoft. You know, Microsoft, when they first came, 99%, years back, 99% of the using of software in Sri Lanka was pirated. So now they have regularized. In fact, I made representation to the center where some of the finance companies also, they have bought from various institutions. So they have installed pirated software. So we had to regularize. Now it's quite good because now mostly in cloud, but those days, so they used to buy from various vendors. So they bring and install, and you get into trouble when we start enforcing some BOI entities. So there were a lot of controversial issues that we had to face. So finally things are on track. So that's so if the protection is not there, those big companies will not invest in a country, invest in organization within the country. So at a time like this, we need to focus in IP area. So that's briefly what I have to say about IP.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We can go on, but we have this time issue now. Already have taken longer than that.
Oh,
So,
it was fantastic. That in fact I was making a few notes. You're so right. I mean, the advertising budget last year was 162 billion, as per the Kanta, and when you put your holdings prices up, as well as consumer promotions, it exceeds 300 billion. And I just got the figures for 2023. We will end up with 190 billion. So allocating 1 billion.
Sri Lanka, yeah.
Only in Sri Lanka, which means that, I mean, you're spot on. I mean, end of the day, what's the point in spending so much money on a brand if you don't have intellectual property, and that whole brand is taken by somebody else? So it's such an important area. I mean, whole heap of questions are coming. I'm going to take a few of them. The first question is, what is the typical process if one wants to follow in brand protection?
Well, now see, when it comes to brand protection, so you have to make, there are in Sri Lanka, you know, I'm not very clear now. What you want to know, how we can enforce, or
yes, how do we enforce? Sudath, because you know that we have
if someone violates, how we can enforce through the act and using the available regulatory framework, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So we can enforce intellectual property rights in many different ways in Sri Lanka. Just let me. We have administrative, we can do it through the administrative enforcement mechanism, criminal enforcement, and also civil enforcement. So if I explain a little bit of civil enforcement, say if your rights are being violated, we can straight away go to commercial high court and file a infringement case, depending on the issue, whether it's copyright. We can go that. Commercial High Court of Sri Lanka has exclusive jurisdiction for the entire island to file actions in Colombo. So which is good. And also through the Colombo fiscal, we can serve it as well. You know, that you can enforce through that by way of an injunction. And say if it is counterfeit, we can also seek a interim order to go to the place based on the evidence. We can go with the registrar and get seize the goods. In fact, last few weeks we did few actions of similar nature. So that is available. So number two is criminal enforcement, that you can do two ways. One, by filing a private claim and a police complaint, that is a police claim. So we can first, we can go direct to the magistrate. So if there are very sensitive information which we don't want to give it to the police first instance, so we can go to the magistrate in camera, in chamber. We can ask for a search warrant under section 197 of the IP Act provides for that. So there, with that, we go to the area police and go and seize the goods and produce the accused, and they can be bailed out same day through the police, and they'll have to formalize it before the magistrate on the search warrant returnable date. So that way we can. So once seized, recently we did quite a few successful raids. So Apple brand, now see, they are quite active in Sri Lanka. So although it was not given publicity, but pretty active with regard to this thing. So that was a search warrant. Now, lot of clothing brands are now opted to go to commercial high court because the advantage of a civil case is you are in total control of the case with the judge, and so it's between few parties. When it comes to criminal actions, you have to deal with so many stakeholders. So sometimes the information also get leaked and all that. So those difficulties are there. The other one is administrative enforcement. That say if your mark is registered, say registered at the Intellectual Property Office in Sri Lanka, you can record the mark, because now this is not formal in Sri Lanka, but we have after making representation, lobbying, now we have a mechanism, say your mark can be recorded at the customs. There is a unit, consumer protection unit. They are quite active. I will share some case studies at the end of it, then you can see that. Maybe I can, we will try to show that also.
So that there's a question.
Yeah, so no, let me just finish. So sorry, doctor, I know time. Now, customs you record, and then, so once that is done, irrespective of whether recorded or not, it can be enforced. So then customs will, so moment they see something not right is happening, they will alert the brand. now see, we represent some of the brands, so they will call me as a local rep, and we go and take pictures and we send to the brand owner wherever in the world, and online they will confirm, they'll have to confirm whether they are fake or not. That moment you do that, so that will be seized. But once seized, you have to, there are various steps needs to be taken. I think these things will take time, but basically at the customs entry points, we can seize. We have the capability, and it's happening right now. And under Consumer Affairs Authority Act, also under Section 3031, I think we can, there also we can do the enforcement. Thank you. Yeah.
Sudath, your camera.
Sudath? Yes.
All right, can say. Actually,
No,
why I intercepted at that time was there's a question coming from Arun on that same light, and is asking if a company registers in a company registrar, does it get registered in intellectual property organization or institute, or do we need to do it separately?
Say it again. Sorry.
If a company registers in the company registrar, does it get registered in intellectual property organization or institute, or do we need to do it separately? Is his question.
You have to separately register with the registrar, intellectual property before registrar.
Okay.
Simply because you incorporate a company doesn't give you IP rights. You also needs to register under the act, that is the Registrar of Intellectual Property. You have to register your mark, you have to register patent, all these things. As I explained, copyright need not be, because we don't have a procedure to register copyright, but designs, rest of the things we can. You have to make an application.
There's another question coming from Stella, sir. It says, how does IP law work when it comes to co-branding, and if one party breached the agreement?
So then you can go to commercial high court if you can't resolve that, and maybe you can, or those agreements, I believe generally they have arbitration, mediation clauses. So based on that, you can go in for an independent third party this thing to resolve these issues. But it is very important before you go into such things to have these agreements in place. A lot of my personal experience, when they start developing something, they don't give mind to this area. Now, before you step in, it's say copyright, and you must start from parallelly. You must focus on IP. That's now see through the legal department of that organization, brand protection. You must have a quick meeting. Say we are going to do this. This new brand is going to be out. Please make sure. Now see one example. I'll give you now. ICC, before they start the game, the tournament. So there were a lot of things start selling. In fact, I also got involved in one of the cases, and we had to see some of the t-shirts. That was before the World Cup football. So all these things. So if everything, all the agreements in place, because you have to go before a judge, the complete outsider. We have to educate that person to get the required warrants and orders, interim orders to enforce. So that's why. So you need to have all these things in place. Assignment. Thank you.
Very interesting question is coming up. It says, the type of work you do you get any threats?
Yes, sometimes, yes.
Okay. So what is the response from the private sector for intellectual property?
Private sector, you mean? Private sector is very taking a lot of steps to protect their IP rights. They are focusing, especially listed companies. They with the international exposure, their teams have, obviously they get trainers, corporate trainers, and various experts on whatever the areas. So they have gained a lot of knowledge. Only problem is when the challenge that I see in this private sector. So they have looked at this promoting the brand, building the business, but when it comes to brand protection, they have issues with the finance team. No budgets. Sometimes I advise them, you create the budget from marketing, then take some, because they are piggybacking on your goodwill and look alike. And I'm doing few cases right now. So but global brands, they have specific budgets through the brand protection they do. That is why this brand protection culture, the brand protection leaders in organization needs to something which is lacking in our organization in Sri Lanka. It is important. Then this awareness will go, the message will carry forward, go to all levels. We can lobby together with the regulators. They are also lethargic, but they are very knowledgeable. So you go and tell them, sit and explain how to identify all these things. We can do these things, but we have to go as a voice, one voice. Right.
I did a bit of research on you, and what I came out was that
all good things.
you're a bio student, you're a biomedical student, and I think your ambition was to become a medical student, and then I think you lost it by like 2-3 marks, and then you went to UK and you were in the hospitality industry, and then from there you came here and you said, I want to do, you're going to get qualified as attorney at law. And today, of course, you're one of the best for IP. What is your advice to a youngster right now, Sudath?
Well, thank you. We know what happened was, this was in 80s, the strict basis was introduced. I studied at St. Peter's. I believe you also studied there, right, doctor?
Yeah.
We are from the same school. So so that time we didn't have information technology. So district basis was not IZETCO, was introduced. So my not on up to that point it was merit list. So I did bioscience, obviously. So there are few marks, yes. Then I wanted to join travel, and then finally I ended up in London and try to get into a accounts field. At time SEMA, I didn't like it because I'm not keen sitting and doing things. I like outside the box things. But that's why now everyone calls me counterfeit buster. You can imagine. So that's then I started working in various pubs. I love making cocktails. I make a lot of unique cocktails as well. So I gave up everything because we had a family business. So I came back to Sri Lanka to manage at that time, about few liquor licenses. So I organized the entire business, our business. And then I realized I have a lot of time, and I wanted to, when I was in England, I wanted to get into the hospitality industry, and I didn't get that right opportunity and entertainment industry. So I didn't get that break. So and also at the same time, I had to return, right? Then I came here, I set up this. So I'm really going to answer this thing. So the question, then I realized I have a lot of time. Then I did law. Then when I was called to the bar, I looked at there are only few law firms here. Very, very small pond, right? So then I focused. I ended up setting up 2 law firms, and then I ended up running our own firm since now almost 22 years. So we have gone into, but if I started something in London, law firm, we wouldn't have achieved what we have achieved here. So there is great opportunity here in a small pond, but you have to be focused, patient, and do the right thing, compliance, everything. It comes with that. So and right now, what we have gone through this country last few years, COVID and all that. Apart from that, we have messed up in many ways, many areas, not focusing that due to wrong political sort of this thing. So it has become a shrinking pond. So, but the young people, my advice is, if your families have the strength, you continue here. You can be a bigger leader and then travel around the world. That's, yeah. So this is still I see great opportunities. So I know you're now focusing on MBA, but not like the days we got into doing business in Sri Lanka. Things are very, very challenging, but these challenges should encourage you to somehow stay on and focus on whatever you are believing in your passion and dreams. And you may not achieve all the dreams overnight, but you definitely, if you are focused that way, you will get that. I'm sure with Doctor, you must be covering all these things in MBA. We have a super talent in Sri Lanka. Even but I'm in legal field, I find there are a lot of young people. They have access to law. Law we don't have to change. They have more knowledge than all of us. But what they don't have is practical this and the patience. Patience very important. But you don't have to stay long like us. I'm 30 years in this, but you don't have to, because everything is there online, all that. So they're super efficient, and you patience, and don't follow money. My another advice, don't follow money. You create avenues, the money will come. But that's how you have to do it. That's my advice to all people who are young and old and everyone, whoever wants to hear me.
Very
I'm
interesting question. There's a question coming up from Sabika. He's asking, so do you see the online development of technology having an impact on intellectual property?
Yes, now everything is, that's why I said social media is very, very strong. And now we are moving to AI. Now, see, as a law firm, I adopted, we have all the systems in place, like, daily court list, I have moved. So it's easy to manage things as well. So especially talking of intellectual property, there is a lot of intellectual property violations are taking place. There are a lot of marketplaces, eBay, Amazon, and all these places. But now these companies, when they initially started, they didn't focus on brand enforcement. They were revenue driven, so they don't care whatever they sell, they get their commissions and so on. So answer is yes, but also there is lot of software. One of our company's legal base is exclusively online work we do. We can scrape all these fake sites and things like that. There is everything is developing, enforcement side and all that. But so the answer, I think, yes. And and I see for young people, there are great opportunities there. They are quite active on computers and social media. They see, but there is great opportunities to do enforcement. Now, see, if you say now, there is a mechanism, brands can various emails you can send if they notice Amazon is doing something. So allowing without their knowledge, then they take action, not like before. So they ban them to sell like that. You can act. Certain instances, they expect the brand owner to take a court order. Now, see, we filed the first case against YouTube in Sri Lanka. Because we wrote several letters on behalf of our client, but they didn't take any action. We filed a case, we served the papers, immediately they closed it. So it's there.
So that some of the students who are following this program is from Toronto, Oman, Maldives. There's some people joining in from Dubai, and then of course from Australia also. So this question comes from Akira from Brisbane, and he says, "Sir, you have a distinction of being in the legal top 500 Hall of Fame intellectual property and dispute resolution. Do you believe in Sri Lanka?"
I do.
And he wants to know why.
Why? I explained to you why. It's a shrinking pond. I see great opportunities. I still see opportunities. That's why we thought like that when it was a small pond. Now it's a shrinking pond. I see great opportunities. We need good people, and I'm not an economist. There are ups and downs. You can't go beyond a point. It has to come. Whatever happens, economy needs to come up. That's how I see it. There will be a lot of challenges. Now, right now, we have global recession everywhere across the world, but a lot of people are migrating from Sri Lanka. Why? They want some, it all depends. All depends where you want to be next few years. Where do you want to be? If you have the capability and your families are, because unlike the West, Asian societies, they have the family support. Say, if you have strong family support here, so you should stay and then focus. So you go out and gain knowledge and come back. That's also one way of looking at. Some point you can go. A lot of people think we are messed up and all that. So if you start worrying yourself, and also you have to look at these things in a very positive way. I'm a positive thinker. I even with I do a lot of complex cases. So I when I meet a client, I listen to their story, and I find within, if it is 90% negative, I try to push the 10% positivity and bring everybody to the negotiating table. That's how you have to look at. So you have to go with that mindset. Lot of challenges. I can see that young people are facing this. Very unfortunate. I feel very sad, but I still love Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka can do that. Some people should stay. So that the small pond, shrinking pond, they will do very well.
There's a good question coming from Shafraz. Maybe we'll take this as the final question, sir. He says,
I'm okay. I'm free today. So I like to share those things.
Thank you so much. It says, what remedial action do you have for unfair trade practices, mainly to do with counterfeits?
Counterfeit, counterfeit, if your mark is registered, right? If your mark is registered, all these things, administrative, civil actions, criminal actions, all remedies are available. If it is not registered, if it is a pending registration, then you can only go to civil high court and get otherwise you get these technical challenges also if you try to do it. But I see customs, even if it is not registered, you can. There are loopholes you can find, but you can in counterfeit. But then you have to have evidence properly, the link, because now see online you find lots of fakes items are being sold, right? So then you have to gather all the information. The telephone number is there and various. Those are, of course, in detail investigations, undercover, all these things. The brands. That's why beginning I told that you need to have a brand protection department, and you can get ex police officers as part of the team. I can explain how you can create that team. So it's there. It's there. We do that, and I will share this. Can you share this? This is a case study. You can also look at it. Sorry, I missed it.
No problem. If you can just email it, I will share it with the team, Sudath.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I can quickly just show the slide. See because this is relevant to this question. See, this is recently we did some raids. I can't say counterfeit plasters, Dettol. We have done DSI, AV brand near
Yeah, yes.
Independence Square. So we did a case, we settled. Both cases got settled. The LCY is a local brand. We helped them to fight the Victoria's Secret, Puma. See, this case also we did. We appeared for Manchester United. So there was a violation. So this was in the paper. These are custom seizures. Some of them are, as you can see, 31 million worth contraband destroyed by the customs. That these are some Disney products, the oil filters. There's so many. And
oh, fantastic. Actually,
yeah.
the next question that came out was from Kalani, who is from ex-Dialog. Now she works for the UAE, one of the top mobile providers there. And her question to you, Sudath, was: what is the most memorable case that you have worked on IP?
So many, but I have challenge. I face a lot of challenges enforcing brands, garment brands. They get together. Organizations, the counterfeiters. You know, they openly sell. They get together. They lobby, and with powerful people, they try to harass us. I have faced that, but I managed to survive.
Oh,
there's a question. A different story. You know, it's really, really tough. You know, so this is now see the regulators that raises a lot of questions. Regulators, I have written some articles. Or regulators are very good, but when there is influence, they tend to take that side, and you know they just do whatever the politicians want. So this has to stop. They shouldn't interfere with these regulators. If you interfere with regulators, we can't protect IP. Yeah. People who are doing protection also being threatened. They are threatened and they take more steps than the violators. Those are the challenges, but you can't give up. You have to fight it. Someone has to fight.
Hey, so actually there's one of our lecturers at APIT who got a scholarship to do her PhD in Australia and Dimantini, and she's posed a question for you, sir. The question is, the most highest number of counterfeits that have been manufactured globally is from China. How does China survive as the WTO tries to protect people who are authentic? What is your view?
Yeah, congratulations first with your PhD. No, this thing is, you know, we have a lot of globally fighting counterfeits. We have challenges. I agree, but you know there are other factors as well. You know, the political, geopolitics, everything. Now, see, China started doing. They initially majority of counterfeits came from China, but now they are also implementing. I can give you one classic example. You know, Victoria's Secret, because I'm very close to Victoria's Secret brand because I had a JV also doing this IPR enforcement, intellectual property, that companies doing compliance audits. You know, so they had they found there were 60 fake VS stores started in China, 60 places. They filed action, lost, and they won against, the appeal went up to Supreme Court, and they finally, everything was shut down. So they are initially, years back, they just allowed everybody to manufacture irrespective of IP. Now they have realized, in order to go to the global stage for selling their stuff, they also have to respect IP, these things. So China is now focusing on that. Now, apart from these trade wars, I'm just focusing on IP. Because I'm representing quite a few organizations, so we have access to such things. I can see they have put their things in order. So if you do it through the right legal team, brand protection, enforcement, investigation teams, you can get things done in China. But China is a tough market. Language challenges, all these things are there. This is brand protection, very interesting area. Very, very interesting. I don't know whether I covered the answer properly, but so it's changing.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the best for intellectual property, and someone who is like the counterfeit buster of Sri Lanka. You don't get many chances to meet him. Attorney at law, managing partner, Sudath Perera Associates. Sir, thank you so much for spending time. It's exactly an hour that you spend time with the youngsters, and you know that Sri Lanka's, the people who are really affected are the youngsters between the ages of 25 and 35 years. And it was so nice for you to take time and spend some time with them. Maybe later on, you could come and do a session face to face when time permits. Right now, everything is online, but it would be great to see you face to face. So thank you so much. Ruth, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor and Ruth, and your attention. I took a longer than that, but so with these questions, otherwise, you can't explain. I'm happy to come there and have a interactive chat and share, especially to encourage young people to stay on, so that's very important. Sinking pond, great opportunities.
Amazing. Mr. Sudath, you are definitely well-traveled, well-experienced individual. And to have you on our platform today, I believe it is all our honor to have you here to share your experience, your knowledge with us. And indeed, intellectual property is a very interesting topic. Many people do not have a clear idea about it, and you are well versed in the subject. I agree, 20 minutes is not at all enough even to scratch the surface of the subject. So looking forward to having you on board with us, perhaps in a future session. So, but for this webinar, this is it. This is all we can bring to our audience. And so I would like to wrap up by thanking all our students who've logged in, our industry partners, alumni, and the general public who is logged in on Facebook. And I'd like to thank our IT team for the technical support extended during this webinar series. And before we close, I'd like to remind our industry partners, if at all you have any internship openings or job vacancies in your companies, do send it across to us, because we do have a very strong internship program in both IT, law, and computing faculties. So with this, I'd like to also remind everybody that APIT has a few newly launched MSc programs, so do check it out on our website, on our Facebook, call in, walk in, or even email us for more details. And with this, I'd like to wish everybody a good day, a good afternoon, and a good evening from wherever you're joining in. Till the next session, take care.